On the broadcast tonight, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto began a tour that will culminate in the much publicized Thanksgiving rally at the historic Afra Stadium on Saturday, a week after the ICC terminated the case against Ruto and former radio journalist Joshua Arap Sang, as the post-election violence rape victims case was postponed. Good evening from the KTN News Center. I am Ben Kitili. KTN Prime begins now. President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto have told the opposition coalition court to brace up for a bruising defeat in 2017. The two, who spent the better part of the day in Kiambu County campaigning and launching development projects, said they have performed beyond public expectations and denied claims that their scorecard is a D+ as graded by the opposition coalition. And as KTN's Moremi Mwangi now reports, there was more than meets the eye in the Kiambu tour, as sworn rivals in the county were again denied a chance to address the public.
In what was somewhat a warm-up for the Saturday prayer rally at Afraha Stadium in Nakuru, the head of state and his deputy William Ruto retreated to President Kenyatta's Gatondo home turf on a major charm offensive. It all began right at the doorstep of President Kenyatta's home area, where the two officially opened a new hospital wing at the Gatondo Level 4 hospital with 100-bed capacity, 14 of these being ICU units and 3 surgical theaters, before the duo unleashed a barrage of scathing verbal missiles at critics of the ruling coalition.
Kila mtu hapa anaamuka kwenda kujitafutia kwa jasho yake. Au ni namna gani? Si ni hivyo? Na tunataka tuhakikishe tumesaidia Wakenya wote, kila mtu aweze kukula haki yake, jasho yake. Lakini ukisimama na kazi yako kitu cha kwanza, akiangalia wale wako hivi, wale wako hivi, wale wako hivi. When you grow up and mature and realize we are living in the modern world, hawajui kiongozi wao ni nani, hawajui chama yao ni gani, hawana sera, ni filimbi na miti ya jembe.
Barina Nopen's part at the court brigade, which gave the ruling coalition a performance scorecard of D+. The Jubilee duo insists that they have performed beyond expectations and cautioned the court team to brace up for a bruising defeat in 2017.
Ni kama hii hospitali imejijenga, zile barabara tunafungua zimejijenga, lakini tunasema kwa sababu kuna wengine ambao hata ukifanya nini hawaoni na hawataona.
Captain wetu ni Uhuru Kenyatta. Tuko na chama yetu ni Jubilee. Wale tunashindana na wao wa code ni Amorphous Group. Hawajui chama ni gani, hawajui captain ni nani.
Barring an attempt to conceal the growing internal wrangles in the president's Kiambu home turf, local leaders, among them Kabete MP Ferdinand Waitito and other area MPs, were conspicuously denied a chance to speak, while Governor William Kabogo only got one chance to address the residents throughout the president's tour. But local leaders downplayed the raging war in the county.
Leaders here, at times when they are given an opportunity to talk, they talk for a very long time. He has a very busy schedule.
Watu ya Kiambu mtakubali tutembee na nini? Tushirikiane na Wakenya wenzetu.
A leadership seat, people will always contest for those seats. So the president, for them to speak, the two of them, it is because as we are local leaders, them they are national leaders.
The Jubilee Brigade is expected in Nakuru on Saturday for what many argue is the official launch of the Uhuru Ruto 2017 re-election bid. Moremi Mwangi, KTN News in Kiambu.
Now, this Kiambu tour comes almost exactly a week after the International Criminal Court terminated the case against Deputy President William Ruto and former journalist Joshua Arap Sang. Even as the ICC suspects now walk free in Kenya, the hearing of the case filed by survivors of the 2007-2008 post-election violence against the government has been postponed to the 14th of April 2016. The case was filed by 8 survivors who were brutally gang raped and forcibly circumcised. allegedly by state security officers as well as civilians. Michelle Ngele now reports.
More than 50 survivors of the 2007-2008 post-election violence showed up at the Milimani Law Court in Nairobi in solidarity with a group of 8 individuals who in 2013 filed a petition in the Constitutional and Human Rights Division of the High Court of Kenya, seeking to compel the government of Kenya to address the sexual and gender-based violence that occurred during the post-election violence.
These are the 8 courageous survivors who've come out to be the face of the case in this particular, but their petition is seeking reparations, is seeking treatment, is seeking structures that will support not only the 8 of them, but all the other survivors of PEV who are out there.
We are requesting non-governmental organizations that are really trying much to help us, support us psychologically. Keep it up. We are here for you. I would like to request the Court of Kenya. I think all the rulings have been done in ICC. We request Kenyan Court to let us receive our justice if it is available.
In the aftermath of the violence, Kenyan leaders pledged, "Let's not be vague, let's go to Hague," perhaps thinking that the ICC would offer better justice. 6 years later, and victims and survivors of the violence are still a distressed lot. The perpetrators have not been prosecuted. Eric Kioko is one such victim, and he remembers all too well the brutality that befell him.
Nilisikia sauti ya mama akiwa chini na kulikuwa ni usiku saa 3. Mimi nilijua juu mara mingi sana hiyo time ni raping ilikuwa inaendelea sana. Na pia watu katokato na nyumba kuchomo. Nilipatana nao kwa kona watu wangapi? Watu 3. Mimi hata nikiinua mkono wangu wa kushoto niliinua kama sijui. Nikagadi hivi tu na ikakatwa hapo na ikaanguka. Ilikatiwa hapa chini ya joint. Joint nilikuja kutolewa OC. Mimi nasema niliumia juu. Hii ndio nilikuwa natafuta nayo. Sasa niko hivyo. Yes, mimi ni DJ. Napata labda leo 500. Kesho 500. Hiyo ndio na lea na watu wangu.
The petitioners claim that the government failed to properly train and prepare police to protect civilians from sexual violence, and that in its aftermath, the police refused to document and investigate claims of sexual and gender-based violence, leading to obstruction and miscarriage of justice. They now want the government to publicly acknowledge and apologize to the victims for their failure to protect the rights of Kenyans.
Kama si ma victim, tulikam tukakuwa timu moja. Lazima tujifaitie, lakini tunajaribu kujifaitia, lakini tunaona hatuonekani.
Even speaking today, the wounds are still there. There has not been any reparations. There has never been any attempt even by the state to take these survivors through a process of healing. And that is what we want the court through an order to address and to direct the Kenyan state, not just to ignore the challenge the survivors have faced. We want the survivors to have not only their reparations in court, but more importantly, they must go through a healing process.
The case at the High Court will resume on the 14th of April after the government asked for more time to go through the petitioners' claims. Michelle Ngele, KTN News.
Painful for the victims as they continue to seek justice locally. Now let's tell you an interesting story in Bungoma County, where there is a man who has jumped into the news headlines lately for claiming to be a prophet sent to save mankind. He today spoke to KTN's Robert Wanyonyi, explaining, get this, why he wrote his own so-called Bible. He also introduced Kenyans to his 36 wives.
Mimi ndio njia ya Mungu sasa. Na mnasikia mimi namwambia mimi wana nabii 5.
That is the message from a self-proclaimed prophet, going by the names Prophet John V, the self-appointed spiritual leader of the Muungano Church for All Nations. Over 2,000 years have elapsed since Jesus Christ died, but now a certain man has emerged in Nandoli village, Kandui constituency within Bungoma County. This man claims that he is the last prophet that God sent to the world to save mankind.
Hakuna tofauti, tunaonanga Roma, tuko na Roman Catholic, Catholic. Vatican tuko hivi. Sinai tuko hivi. Hii ni kanisa ya watu wo.
Born on February 15th, 1941, the man calling himself Prophet John V has 36 wives and is blessed with 99 children. He shockingly claims that he is the third prophet sent by God after Moses and Jesus Christ.
Mimi niko na watoto 98. Wamama naishi nao ambao wanasaa watoto wote wanalinda sasa hivi niko na wanawake 36.
The 76-year-old man has written what he calls his own Bible, containing 93 books compared to the Holy Bible's 66 books. On top of that, he has come up with what he refers to as the 12 commandments of God instead of the 10 commandments that God gave to Moses at Mount Sinai. He has won himself a few followers.
Mtu mzuri ni mwenye anatii Mwenyezi Mungu kama muumba. Hiyo ni 11. Pointi nambari 12 inasema mwaka huu mwezi akipatikana atawawa na Mungu tu.
The self-proclaimed prophet says his Bible is known as Agano Mpya na ya Mwisho, or the New and Last Testament, according to his belief that he is God's last surviving prophet.
Mimi saa hii niko na sanduku la Mungu la kano ambaye itaongoza nyinyi katika ulimwengu hii kwa miaka 1018 na miaka 46.
He boasts of having 96 disciples currently, telling us that he intends to recruit a total of 5,000 disciples and teach them the word, which he claims was given to him by God. According to his own projections, the 5,000 disciples will help him spread the gospel to the entire world.
Na wanafunzi 93 na wafundisha maandiko matakatifu ambayo yameandikwa hapa ambayo Mungu alinipa yaongoze duniani. Mimi peke yangu siwezi somesha dunia hiyo. Hata nahitaji wanafunzi nifikishe watu 1000, 5000.
We found a few of the disciples going through Prophet John's doctrine.
Mfarisayo Penson, kingine ni cha Mfarisayo Isaka.
The self-styled prophet's strict control on his adherents is noted here, as this disciple reads out part of the 12 sentences that the prophet calls are God's commandments.
Mkora akipatikana Mungu ni kumuua tu. Sasa muuaji akipatikana ni kumuua tu.
Some of the books in his book include Geoffrey, Agnes, Emanueli, and Mfarisayo Paulo, among other books with surprising names.
Unasikia niko na faili 1456. Hiyo faili siko na mipango yote. Bila Mungu amepangia binadamu tena.
He says it has taken him 68 years of his life to prepare what he calls the holy book that God revealed to him in a dream at the age of 7 years.
Na hii sanduku la kano Mungu alinipa mwaka wa 48 mpaka sasa ni miaka 68. Sasa nataka mtu Mkenya wewe na Mwafrika mwingine mmoja mniokoe na hii sanduku la kano msomeshane.
Robert Wanyonyi, KTN News.
His name is Prophet John V. He has written his own version of the Bible, which has 93 books, including a book called the New and the Last Testament. Well, what is your take on that? That is what we want to get from you on our big question discussion tonight. What is your take on Prophet John V? Do you take the Bungoma so-called prophet seriously? Do tell us what do you think. SMSing us 2215 is our SMS line. You can tweet us at Ben_Kitili, at KTN News, and at KTN Kenya. Shall be sampling some of your texts as well as tweets. Right, elsewhere, do not write me off just yet. Those are the words of the 2013 Kenyan presidential candidate Peter Kenneth, who now says supporters are asking him to run for governor of Nairobi County, although he has not made up his mind just yet. KTN's Duncan Haimba spoke exclusively to Peter Kenneth.
It's time to make this country great again.
He has been out of the limelight intentionally, but Peter Kenneth has emerged from the shadows of his 2013 presidential campaign 16 months to the next general election.
In fact, I was the only other candidate who did a proper campaign meeting in Kisumu, and it was very well attended. I have no regrets whatsoever. If I had to do it again, I would do it. Probably with more literal experience now, with hindsight.
Kenneth has watched the developments on the national scene, whether political or otherwise, and blames the voter for the quality of Kenya's current leadership.
To effect change, you really have to have real change. It can't be business as usual. The one thing I learned about Kenyans is that they speak change, but they are so afraid to effect change that when the moment comes, the afraid part of them takes the lead. And I think that's where we fail.
And the challenges Kenyans have faced over time are not about to change, according to Kenneth, from a high unemployment rate, insecurity to graft.
They know what is wrong. They know what can go wrong. They know what they want, but they cannot make that political decision that will propel them to go where they want to go.
With an impressive manifesto, Jubilee trampled upon the competition to emerge winners in the 2013 polls. But the politician and businessman says the Jubilee regime has failed to live up to Kenyans' expectations.
Unfortunately, because of very many issues, political and otherwise, most of their projects are yet to take off or are just beginning to take off.
With barely 16 months to August 2017 general election, Peter Kenneth still remains cagey on what seat he'll be contesting, but he says he will declare his position before end of the year.
I have not been pushed by anybody. I have read and I have seen a lot of people from Murang'a wishing that I could go and run as their governor there. I have also seen people who say you should try a second stab at the president. I have also heard very many people writing to me, telling me if I could try and rescue Nairobi. But as I said, time for decision making has not reached.
A section of Kenyans from Murang'a and Nairobi counties hold different opinion on the matter.
Peter Kenneth amekuja hapa kwetu asimame kwa hiyo kiti sababu hata sisi tunataka uongozi wake.
Kuna haja ya kuja kupigania kiti ya Murang'a. So ningependelea afanye juu chini aone hiyo kiti ya Nairobi ya governor, agefanye vile angewezekana na hiyo kweli tutampea sababu ya maendeleo yake.
I think he should go back to Murang'a and run for governor there because Nairobi is not good for such characters.
But what do political commentators say?
He seems to have a lot of resources. He can put up a national campaign strategy. But again, unfortunately for Kenya, in as much as you could have the financial resources, if you're not a tribal chief, then you don't stand a chance.
We are running from the main issue and going to coalitions because everybody wants to be a tribal chief. I never at any one time aspired to be a regional or tribal chief. I really doubt whether I would even qualify to be a tribal chief with a name like mine, right?
For now, the wait continues on which way for Peter Kenneth. Duncan Hemba, KTN News.
Tomorrow on KTN Prime, Duncan Hemba will be seeking to unearth yet another 2013 presidential candidate who has been away from the limelight. That is Professor James Ole Kiambu. Do sure to join us for that. You're watching KTN Prime. Thank you for staying with us. We take a quick commercial break. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to KTN Prime. Following a KTN News expose that has been airing for the past 2 weeks that has highlighted the rot and corruption plaguing the Nairobi County government, Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero has sent home 5 of the county officials exposed in the documentary. The expose shedding light on the plight of traders in Nairobi at the hands of unscrupulous officials elicited a heated debate among Kenyans on social media.
The
brutality and malicious manner in which county officers have been dealing with traders in Nairobi, shocking many, with traders mostly falling out of favor with the city county inspectorate officials. These disturbing images, highlighted on KTN News by journalists Mohammed Ali and John Alan Namu on Kibubusa cha Kanjo and Kanjo Kingdom, now the basis upon which the county government of Nairobi is cracking the whip.
We'll arrest them, we'll make sure they're jailed, and we'll sack them.
It appears that the proverbial dark days for the traders may be over after Governor Ivan Skidero, through his county secretary Robert Ayisi, suspended 5 of the officers exposed in the story. Ambani Akasi of county number C02-72930, Julius Ochieng of staff number C02-64911, and Alfred Marenya of staff number C02-21248 have been suspended and are currently in police custody pending further investigations on their conduct. Bernard Muli, also known as Gadhaudhau of county staff number C0074731, and Angeline Kamami alias Kamatha of number C0074735 are yet to be arrested but have since been suspended by the county government. The 3-page statement indicating the strong stand taken by the county following an expose that highlighted the alleged corruption cartel that Governor Ivan Skidero has over time insisted do not exist within his administration. A section of the statement reads, quote, His Excellency the Governor Dr. Ivan Skidero would like to assure the Nairobi residents that he will not sit back and allow a few individuals to take us back to the old council habits, end quote. The backlash following the expose that will see more episodes air in the coming weeks on KTN News, hoping to have those found culpable face the full force of the law, even as the seemingly elusive quest to find justice continues. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
Keep it KTN News, where we will continue to give you groundbreaking documentaries as we continue to speak truth to power. You're watching KTN Prime. Before we go for another quick commercial break to come back with business, we did tell you the story of the Bungoma Prophet John the Fifth, and who has 12 commandments and 96 disciples and 36 wives. We're asking, what do you think of his story? Do you believe or do you take him seriously? Keep sending those SMSs and tweets to our studio lines and Twitter handles. We'll take a quick break, after which Joy Doinbira will be telling us the latest from the world of business. Stay with us.
Good evening and thank you for keeping it KTN Time for Business. Jeremy Awori has added his voice to the recent developments in the banking industry on Chase Bank and receivership, the role of auditors in ensuring companies comply to financial reporting. Barclays Bank CEO and Chief Executive Officer spoke to KTN Business on the various issues happening in the banking industry.
I think when we look at some of these things, I think what it will do is it was going to raise certain areas where there's going to need to be more rigor. I think it's going to also raise the level of reporting and transparency around certain things like insider lending, whether directly or indirectly through other entities. Frankly, for governance sake, even if it is an entity that is borrowing, but there's a director who is an ultimate beneficiary, if you ask me, that should be disclosed to the board. There's also a requirement for insider lending to be reported to the central bank, for them also to be aware as to the regulator. So, for example, if I'm to borrow, I have to disclose my borrowing not only to my board, but I also have to disclose it to the central bank.
What message would you pass on to anyone right now who'd like to open a bank account, or one who is even thinking of moving their money from one bank to the next?
I think there's obviously a duty of care. You need to obviously look into the institution that you're putting your money in, look at the reputation, and let's face facts. I think it is challenging for your typical depositor. You're not going into a situation where you're going to analyze the financials of that company before you put your 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 shillings in there. And I think you can only really go by the reputation and the governance standards. So I know a lot of people are moving towards the larger banks, or the ones who have been there longer, because that's a proxy for the fact that they've probably run their businesses in a decent way. And I think so the levels of transparency are going to have to open out. So I'm not going to say you should go to this bank or you should go to this bank, because I don't know about those institutions. What I know is the general industry is generally sound.
All right, you can catch that conversation at about 9:45, where we'll be looking at the state of the banking sector. Players in the ICT sector have lauded the move by the Ministry of Education to have all institutions install biometric control systems, even as institutions of higher learning step up security. Local entrepreneurs will emerge as the biggest beneficiaries. KTN's Abiagina spoke to John Okach from System 1 Limited on the significance of this policy shift and the opportunities it presents to Kenyan entrepreneurs.
Based on this, yes, Dr. Matiang'i, the directive actually is extremely good, because we've been going around based on the previous experience.
How do you convince institutions that this is the way to go, as much as it is a directive from the government?
Thank you very much. The biometric itself is not really, does not only help on the security, but they help even on the fees collection, enforcement. For example, you want to know who, like currently they use what we call exam card. To show that actually you've paid for fee, and instead of the exam card, we can still use the biometric. So the benefits of biometric as far as the institutions are concerned, biometric start from the workforce.
Let's revisit the banking sector irregularities and the concern from various sectors around the country. 6 members of parliament have opposed proposed government plans to bail out Chase Bank and other 2 troubled banks, and instead proposed the auction of the shareholders and directors' assets to pay the depositors. According to the members of parliament, the government cannot take blame for the actions of non-compliant institutions, and that the directors and shareholders must be forced to pay the depositors. The members of parliament, led by Mukurweini Member of Parliament Kabando Wakabando, the leaders called on the Director of Criminal Investigation and other investigating state agencies to arraign in court directors and shareholders of banks that have gone under, likening the current crisis in the banking sector to Nigeria a decade ago, when its banking institutions experienced irregular insider lending.
There is no one who is going to get away with their looting in the banking industry. We will not allow looters who are looting the resources from the banking institutions to get away with the money.
We should forever remain vigilant. Now that the crooked and the corrupt have become bold enough that they can rob us in broad daylight and then proceed to manipulate everyone to convince the government to compensate them for that theft.
The Financial Report, in association with Standard Chartered Mortgage, the mortgage that gives you more than just your dream.
And that's it for KTN Business. But remember to catch the full conversation on the state of the banking sector on Captains of Industry. That's going to be after this bulletin, where we'll be speaking to Jeremy Awori, the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Barclays Bank Kenya.
A very good evening and welcome to today's edition of KTN Sports. My name is Moses Wahizi. Let me start with matters of AFCON, and this is the ladies' tie, where yesterday Harambee Starlets made history by being an African team that will be making their debut in this year's edition of the AFCON that will kick off at around November 19th. But Kenya will not be playing that tie alone. The other teams that have qualified include Nigeria. Remember, Nigerians are 9 times champions, so they have actually tasted victory. South Africa is also there. Zimbabwe, a side that has not been that impressive in matters of AFCON, they've only enabled to finish 4th place in the year 2000. Cameroon, in the last edition, that was in 2014, they actually finished as runners-up, so also making a statement. They will be hosting the tie, and they'll want to win and actually dance to those tunes of victory at home. Egypt will be going there for the second time, having played the first edition in 1998. So they're also there just trying to make a statement and actually see if they're going to take victory. Equatorial Guinea is the other side against alongside Nigeria that have tasted victory in AFCON, the ladies tie. They've won it twice. Nigeria have won it 9 times. So also Equatorial Guinea, a very, very competitive side that also wants to bag it this time. Ghana is also very, very competitive, just among the other teams that are trying to see if they're going to be taking that tie this year's edition. But it won't be easy, and the Harambee Starlets need a lot of support so that they'll be able to go and prepare well for this tie that is scheduled for November 2016. But moving on, the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya Chief Executive Officer, and that's Jeff Rugut, has expressed confidence that Kenya will beat the May 2nd compliance deadline. Kenya missed the first 2 deadlines set by World Anti-Doping Agency, but got a final extension, and they're going to comply by the end of 2nd. Failure to which a verdict will be delivered on 12th of May. Rugud was speaking in Eldoret at the sidelines of the anti-doping seminar that was organized by the Kenya Police Athletics Department.
Because we had the World Championships, we had the invitation, so there have been issues about that, and I think that is why.
Here. Nitatoa mafuta ambayo nitatengeneza in the system. Mungu aliweka ndani.
I mentioned earlier that we were in Parliament yesterday, and one of the good things which I want to report to you now as stakeholders, because you are major stakeholders, your lifeline is hanging on that. Because whether you participate in Rio 2016 or whether you are going to compete in the future, representing Kenya in the international competitions which are forthcoming, it is hanging on that. But it is important also to note that Parliament was very cooperative. We were there yesterday. I went through the whole debate of about 3 hours, and I didn't see even a single person among the parliamentarians who said anything against that bill.
Kisumu boys basketball team suffered their second defeat in the ongoing National Secondary School Games after going down 42-48 to Kapenguria boys at the Kamusinga French School in Bungoma County. Kisumu boys, who upset defending champions Maseno in the regional games, risk missing out on the semi-finals. In hockey, the 2013 champions, and that is Shinyolo, emerged 2-1 victors over Kapkolei. Robinson Okenya with more details.
Brookside Kenya Secondary School Sports Association highlights in association with Brookside Dairies. Brookside, nurturing sporting talent and academics.
It was a day pitting together some of the big names in high school games as the National Secondary School Games got into day 2 in Bungoma County. In basketball, the biggest upset of the day quoted Kisumu boys, who took on Kapenguria. It was however last year's semi-finalists Kapenguria who had the last laugh, taking the game with a 48-42 margin. In the ladies' tie, Loreto had a convincing 36-25 win over Moi. Loreto gave their opponents no chance of redemption as they bagged all quarters in their favor.
There's no way we can allow them to beat us even if it was tie. So we knew we are not going to lose when we were playing.
In rugby, after yesterday's loss to Kakamega, Maseno regrouped to bank a 21-3 victory over Kangaroo School. In another match, Mangu outmuscled St. George's to a 21-6 victory as Upper Hill upset Bungoma with a 14-3 win. In hockey, a majority of the top-rated teams had the odds swinging in their favor as they grabbed important points. In the girls' ties, 2013 winners Sinyolo emerged 2-1 winners over Kapkolei, while Tigoi powered past St. John's with a 3-1 win. In the boys' ties, St. Anthony picked up important points with a 2-0 win over Meru.
It was a day of mixed results for different teams as the top schools kept their shine.
With only a few games left in the group stages, it's now down to who keeps their mettle as the intensity battles begin. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports in Bungoma County.
Brookside and Strathmore University are offering all-rounded East African boys and girls a chance to win a university scholarship. Play at Term 1 school games in Bungoma County and get spotted for final selection to attend a boot camp in December. Score A- in KCSE and you will get shortlisted for the final selection to win a university scholarship. Brookside, nurturing sports talents and promoting academics.
And that's all I'm told that we have time for in today's edition of KTN Sports. My name is Moses Wahisi. Have a lovely night.
KTN Weather in association with Bulletin.
No longer, because I bought Bulletin Power Guard, which kills 100% mosquitoes. Bulletin Power Guard kills 100% mosquitoes.
Back, so we did tell you a story from Bungoma County, story by Robert Wanyonyi of a man, a self-proclaimed prophet, John the Fifth. We did ask you if you take him seriously. Very quickly to some of your tweets and texts, and Marutit Kemboy says the Bible foretold of self-proclaimed prophets in the last days. Fulfillment is now. Masonia Pale says the so-called prophet, if he wants 5,000 followers, I suggest he opens a Twitter account as soon as possible. And Paul Money says unless doctor proves his mental test, we treat him as a cult. And last one here from this gentleman called from Beryl Silvio Doro says no, that's confusion of some mental problems. God in heaven have mercy. So those are some of your views on Prophet John the Fifth. Thank you for watching KTN Prime tonight. My name is Ben Kitili. Good night from the KTN News Center.